scene. Okay, so we're doing sort of a finishing technique on this setting. It's nice and tight and I don't feel any wiggle, but it has little areas that could use, actually maybe you could get in there and take a close look, that need to be kind of pressed in a little bit to make it really look finished. But this also works really well when you have that last little wiggle you're trying to get rid of, a couple little spaces, you know, that you're just trying to finish. So the way that I do it is I'm right-handed, but I'm gonna hold my bezel roller in my left hand, and I've got the end of the tool resting about in the middle of my pinky. This is a really easy position because I'm always moving my whole hand, so you don't have to be actually particularly coordinated, which is a plus when you're doing two-handed techniques. I mean, honestly, in the beginning, you're pretty happy if you can just get one hand to work. So two-handed is kind of, you know, so you want to try to make it as simple as possible, right? So what I do is I take my pinky then and rest it on my block or my board or whatever's holding my stone, because that is what's going to move when I position this. You see what I mean? Now, since this is a finishing step, your angle is really pretty high. It may not be 100% like straight up and down, but you see I really usually just tilt it outward just enough that it's not hitting the stone and no more. Okay, so I rest it there. And you just tap it lightly. And you see how I can just take my hand and just roll it a little bit? That's all it is. And it will get rid of any residual wiggle, any residual space.
Now you're going around, you're not going like north, south, east, west.
North, south, east, west is just to pinch it in place in the very beginning. At this stage, I don't want to be going in individual little spots. I want to be rolling my way around to smooth it out.
Got it.
Okay? And you see the movement of my hand. It's very subtle. You know, I start on the one side and I just roll it a little bit, and then I position my hand again. And you notice also, you know, this is not, you know, wham, wham, wham. This is a light touch. It's more just about the difference in leverage that will really close your stone, close your bezel rather.
Are there any stones that are too soft for this?
If you're really new to this technique, don't do it with something like an opal or an emerald or whatever. As you get more practice, I do this with like everything, but it should be something that you've gotten kind of used to how much force you can apply. Okay, so you see, I'm just going to work my way around, and what it's doing, actually, if you want to like get in close and you can see the areas that I worked, it just closes those little areas. It helps to smooth out the bezel. So I'll go all the way around once or possibly twice, and that'll just really finish it off. And from that point on, then you're just on to like polishing or burnishing or whatever it is you're doing for a better finish.
Yeah, you could really tell where you did it.
Yeah, I mean, you see what I'm saying? It's a big difference, even though it's not a huge movement.
It's
okay?
tight against the stone where you've done it.
Yes. Okay?
Got it.
So you can see where I was hammering right here, the little spaces between the stone and the bezel have disappeared, and it's kind of smoothed out a little bit, where like over in here, I haven't done yet, and you can still see, why am I not getting a focus? There we go. You can still see the little spaces between the stone and the bezel right there. Whereas right here, you can see all nice and smooth and tight against the stone. So that's really what we're going for all the way around. So now that Beth has gone all the way around, it looks extremely fabulous. All the little spaces are gone. It's kind of smoothed out. So I'm going to just do a little demo on how to use a burnisher on it as one of the ways that you can use to shine it up. Okay, so now we're ready to do a little burnishing. So we're going to use one of the burnishers. We have three. This is two of them here. This is a steel and a tungsten carbide. The whole advantage of these, just like the rest of the set, is you hold them in the palm of your hand. You put your finger right on top, and that way you have great control. So although we could use really any of the three on this, let's just go with the steel. It's got a little curve in it, really polished. So I just put my finger on top like so. And then just like when I'm setting, I take my thumb and I put it either against the bezel or against my block, just so that I have a place to rest and be really secure. Because then,
Which direction are you holding the tool? The curve.
I've got the curve down. It just depends on what you're doing. In general, I like to stroke toward myself, just like when I use the flex shaft. But I mean, sometimes with a different piece, you won't quite have room for that, and you may want to push away from yourself. But generally, just like when I'm using a polishing wheel, I'm going with that whole, I'm peeling a carrot motion, you know? And you see how I can just slide that along there. And right now I'm just working on that outside edge. And you see how that gives you a beautiful, sharp, delineated edge there?
Yeah.
Now I can shine the whole top of the bezel if I want, but sometimes I don't want that. Sometimes I just want a really shiny edge right at the outside perimeter. It just depends on what you like. Okay?
Now, why did you choose the steel tool versus the?
Well, like I said at the beginning, honestly, with this one, you could use any of the three, would work fine. Like there's a brass one, which you can use with softer metals. There's the tungsten, which has this little rounded tip. That does help you if you want to get in like right next to it. But honestly, you could use any of the three on this and it would be fine. Okay, and the whole key with burnishing is about like leverage, as always with setting, and also control. With this, you're not going to slip and end up with the burnisher in the middle of your hand, which is the biggest risk when using them normally. So here's Beth's ring, all pretty, finished setting. So she's left it kind of like a matte finish and just shined the very edge there using the burnisher. It looks extremely gorgeous. Mission accomplished.